That was a clip from singer-songwriter Ben Rector. He's been working in the music industry since college, about 15 years now. He has over 1 billion streams, toured with Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, and worked with Snoop Dogg and Kenny G on his new album, The Joy of Music. He joins us from Nashville ahead of his tour stop at 713 Music Hall in Houston next week. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, you were born in Oklahoma City. I was born in Oklahoma City before moving off to Taipei, Taiwan, and people from Oklahoma are okay.
We are okay. I feel like I have like the humble state pride. I think it's a great state, but I'm not trying to push it on anybody. My wife is from Texas. There's a lot to be proud of if you're from Texas.
Yeah, that was my mom and dad, Texas and Oklahoma. All right. At a young age, you took piano lessons, and this either goes one way or the other. For a lot of kids, it's, yeah, I really love the piano. I'm connected to it. And others are like, I got to go to piano lessons again. Which one was it for you?
You know, I was somewhere in the middle, probably leaning towards I got to go to piano lessons again. I wasn't. It didn't grab me at that age, and so I quit, kind of like every other kid does when I was, I don't know, 9 or something, and really didn't pick music back up until high school.
Yeah, and you picked up a guitar.
I did, yes. That's an awesome photo of me, by the way.
Yeah, cool. I love it. I love that. It's so cute. Okay, yeah, it looked like you were doing a little drum set there with the pots and pans, right?
Yeah. I guess I love drums. Maybe that was just it was coming out then.
Yeah, music was in you. All right, you got a degree in business and marketing at University of Arkansas. Did you do that because you felt like that would merge well with a music career, or did you think that was the backup in case a music career didn't happen?
My honest answer is I think my mom would have, I don't know, if I'd been like, I'm majoring in music, she would have been like, no, sir, no, you're not. So I majored in business. I enjoyed it. It was good. But I think I started doing music professionally when I was in college. And so it was clear that by the end of it, that was going to be my job. But I think if I hadn't finished my degree, my mom would have driven to Fayetteville and pop my tires or something.
And you can't say it doesn't hurt to have that business degree mixed with music.
That's right.
Song Conversation won the grand prize in the John Lennon Songwriting Contest. Imagine. Okay, you're the youngest to ever win that award. So along the way, when someone's building a career, it's got to be nice to get this confirmation that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I think especially at that age, because I had just gotten to college, and I think to be recognized in that way made me be like, oh, maybe I could really do this. Because at that point, it was like my friends coming to the few shows that I was doing. And so I think seeing that was super encouraging for me.
Yeah, it's one thing to want to do something. It's another thing to do what it takes to do something. You did what it takes. You toured on weekends, on school breaks. You were working any chance you could. And then you moved to Nashville, which is a big step for a lot of songwriters and musicians.
Yeah, and honestly, I wasn't going to do it. And there was a musician in Nashville who I toured with who said, hey, you should really think about moving here. And I was like, I don't know if Nashville needs another guy with a guitar and songs about his feelings. I think they're probably full up on that. And ended up moving, and I'm so glad I did. It's a great hub for creativity. And but yeah, initially I wasn't going to do that, and that's kind of out of character for me. I'm not a great risk taker, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, and it also gets you noticed in other areas. So Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, what a wonderful experience that had to be, because you have to be good to tag along with those people like that.
100%. And they were so wonderful. And I grew up listening to 90s country and 2000s country. And so when we got that call, they were like, would you open for Tim and Faith? I was like, yes, I will. It was such a blast. Yeah. And their show was incredible. They were really sweet. It was a great experience.
Yeah. And you say 90s country. I remember when 90s country took a turn. And when it took that turn, it brought many more people into the fold, because it wasn't just a certain type of music, right? It went across the board. You had 90s country that could be pop, that could be rock, that could be jazz, that could be blues. Okay, you started your own record label. And what's interesting about this is that, in decades past, you weren't getting anywhere unless you had a record label that recognized you and picked you up, or a recording company. If that didn't happen, then you were kind of, in the background. But what made you decide to start your own label?
These are great questions, by the way. I feel like, so the internet with everything kind of flattened everything out and eliminated a lot of gatekeepers. And before, if you wanted your CD to be in Best Buy, record label is the only way that was going to happen. But now, and even 10 years ago, if you wanted your music to be on iTunes, you could choose a service and upload it onto there. And I was never like, I'm going to be independent always, but I think more and more people are doing that now because there are less gatekeepers. It doesn't mean that record labels are a bad option. It just made more sense for me to be independent. And so starting a label, it sounds fancier than it is.
Yeah,
It's like,
but you're in control of yourself. You're the CEO of your career.
Yeah, and that's been that's worked out well for me creatively and otherwise, and I've been glad to be able to do that.
Yeah, you strike me as the kind of person, you do things first because you love it, not necessarily because you're looking at the outcome. And sometimes people look at the end of the game as opposed to enjoying the ride getting there. But let's talk about, and this is not the end, but this is a marker, over 1 billion streams.
It's a lot. That's a lot. If you had told college me that, I would have been like, you need to check those facts because that's not right. But it is a lot of streams, and I'm very grateful that anybody wants to listen to my music. That's awesome.
Yeah, and there's more to it than you performing music. There's more to it than you playing the music, singing the music. Your videos, you're very creative in that. So let's go through a couple of videos that you have, like Brand New, for example. So what goes behind coming up with the ideas of what you're doing, the people you use in your videos?
Okay, so Brand New was actually just, at the time that song was starting to perform well on radio, and we didn't have a music video for it. And my management team was like, we really need to make a music video, but I was on tour at the time, and I was like, I don't have the bandwidth to come up with anything. And so I called a friend of mine who's a video director, and he was like, what if we used the budget and did something fun? He was like bought a bunch of tennis balls or a bunch of candy bars, gave them out. I was like, what if we went to Six Flags? And I was like, that just actually sounds awesome.
There so you go. Yeah, that's awesome.
And brought people from across the country to go Six Flags.
Yeah, and then old friends performed the video in the house that you grew up in. All right, tell us about the joy of music and what we can expect at your concert here in town.
My genuine hope is that it's just a breath of fresh air. We tried to make it something that would be accessible for everybody. People are bringing their kids. It's been a great time, and realistically, it's just it's a fun show, and the musicians are great. We have a saxophone, percussion player, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we look forward to seeing you in town soon.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
All right. Ben Rector's tour stop in Houston is next Friday, June 3rd, 7 p.m. at 713 Music Hall. For tickets or more information, visit greatdayhouston.com.